Karl from TRIDEC, and we are live with Coffee with Karl. It's Friday morning at 9 o'clock, and we have a great panel today, and they're just coming online. Today's theme for Coffee with Karl is Mask Up Tri-Cities, and as we talked about amongst our team, the best way to demonstrate how wearing a mask and following the governor's guidelines and the health district guidelines, we came up with this panel of leading restaurateurs, winery owners, innovators, and retailers in the Tri-Cities to try to bring the point to bear. So it's my pleasure to introduce our panel today. I'll start with Barbara Johnson from the Columbia Center Mall. Good morning, Barbara.
Good morning, Karl. How are you?
Doing great. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Next up is Tracy LaMarr from Chicken Shack and TC Food Dudes. Tracy, good morning.
Good morning.
Steve from CG Public House and Catering. Steve, how you doing?
Good morning. Good morning, Karl.
And last but definitely not least, Shae Frichette from Frichette Winery. Shae, thanks for joining us this morning.
My pleasure. Good morning.
So to kick us off today, since it is Coffee with Karl, we're gonna change it up a little bit, but we always talk about coffee or our mugs or what we're drinking out. But we also have given our panelists, if they'd rather talk about masks, totally your choice to break the ice. I'll kick us off. I have both a vintage TRIDEC Tri-Cities development. You probably can't see it. This is our old logo before we changed it up. But I also have the Cougar mask, and I've told it before on the air, but I'm what we call a Costco Cougar. I'm actually an Idaho Vandal, but we kind of share the Palouse from campus, perspective. So, and my wife's a Coug, and so I'm kind of like a Coug family. So that's my coffee and mask story. So let's go around. Shae, you want to start us off with your coffee or mask story?
Sure. Well, I personally can't wait to really get back to some sort of normalcy in a safe way. And so I'm having my coffee out of the lodge at Columbia Point, which is what they serve their Moscow mules out of, by the way. So, I mean, but that's not what I'm having this morning. And of course, I do believe in masking up because I'm ready to get open. So this one is one with numbers. So I'm counting down the number of days before we can safely reopen.
That's perfect. Thank you. Let's go to Steve next. What do you got for coffee or a mask or both?
Well, what I've got here is I have a black restaurant coffee. It's just our CG Public House coffee cups, and I drop them a lot. So anyway, and we have plenty of masks. I just don't have one in front of me to show you. My favorite has.
Oh, you bet. Well, thanks. I'm new to the Tri-Cities, but I have been to CG Public House and I've been able to sample some of your coffee in one of your mugs, and I think it's great. So we're all looking forward to being open and back up where we can enjoy some in person.
Oh, I can't wait.
You bet. Tracy, how about you? I saw you earlier that you had something that might be Cougar related, but what do you got for a mug or a mask? There we go. You might be muted still.
Yes, I was. So yes, I have Cougar grad, Cougar fan. I do not have a mask with me as well since I'm at home. I keep it in the car, so I always have it. And so that is my coffee mask story.
I like it. Thank you very much. And Barbara, how about you? I know you kind of gave us a preview, so I know what you got. Let's see it.
Okay, well, in terms of coffee, I have my Switzerland mug today because I am looking forward to the point where we can travel again and see the world. And unfortunately, we had to cancel a huge trip this year. So I'm looking forward to when we can actually go back and travel and see the world. But people who know me, I'm a big sports fan. So I'm waiting for the Mariners to start playing again. So I have a Mariners mask. Of course, I have my Seahawks mask, and my husband and I are graduates of Oregon State, so we have our Beaver mask. So we're ready to go.
All right. Well, that's great. Well, let's get into our discussion today. I want to remind our guests that are joining us virtually that you can use the question and answer feature at the bottom if you have any questions for any of our panelists today. And if you're tuning in on Facebook Live, you can ask a question in the comments, and then we'll be able to take a look at those questions and get them out to our guests. But thank you everybody for joining us again this morning, and maybe we'll just go around, I want to say go around the room, but go around the virtual room and share just a little bit about your business, you know, some of the challenges that you're facing in not being open. And then if you can, talk a little bit about what you've been able to maybe do within the guidelines, and maybe, you know, do a little bit of business or innovate. And I think you've got some great stories. So maybe we'll start this time with Tracy, if you'd like to kick us off.
Sure. So we have been open, although our dining room, this is for Chicken Shack, our dining room has been closed. We had to pivot very quickly to online ordering. I was actually out of town the day that the announcement came that we had to shut down the dining room. And so I came back the day after the dining rooms had to be closed. And the first thing I did was try to figure out how we were going to service our customers without having a dining room. And what I ended up doing was starting my own delivery service, because prior to the shutdown, we were being delivered by third-party deliveries, which charge upwards of 30% of every ticket. And I did not think that we would be able to survive with that kind of margins being taken away from us. And throughout the course of this, I have been contacted by other restaurants to use my delivery service. And so I have opened it up, and we have 20 restaurants, with more being added every day. Although we had an online presence, I found that a lot of the other restaurants did not. And so they have been suffering greatly during this time, relying on phone-in calls only. So I'm really hoping that the service opens up a broader target market for all the restaurants that have joined me. So
That's great, Tracy. And what was that website again for TC Foods Dude, just so we can give you a little plug and promotion out there?
sure. It's tcfooddudes.com.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I have to say, I hadn't seen the website before this morning, but I checked it out and I thought it was awesome. You know, like being a new Tri-Citian, my family and I can't wait to go explore and even use TC Food Dudes to sample some of that food. And I think it's a great cross section. And, you know, one of the really cool things that we have in the Tri-Cities is such a diversity of, you know, food options, and, you know, of course, tied into the wine industry and even the kind of growing craft brew and stuff. So it's really, really great to see that.
Yes. And right now we can deliver alcohol. So
Hey, well, maybe, you know, hopefully some wineries, maybe, I don't know which ones, but maybe somebody can sign up on that. And maybe that's a good segue into Shae. Shae, can you tell us a little bit about Frichette Winery and how you guys are doing and some of the things that you're trying to do just to keep things open and going?
Of course. So for Frichette, we're located out in the unincorporated Benton County area. And so we're kind of a little bit removed from my friends, you guys out there in the immediate Tri-Cities area. And so we're, you know, kind of a destination. So our business really is, for us personally, direct consumer, and you come in, you taste our wine, you enjoy our space, you sign up for our wine club, and you take wine home. And so, of course, with the stay-at-home order, that really devastated the way that we traditionally had done business here in the Tri-Cities for the past almost 7 years. And we had to pivot very quickly. We really didn't have a strong e-commerce presence or a retail presence, just because of the way our business model was set up, which is very common for a lot of small wineries. And most of the wineries in the state are smaller wineries, and not a lot of wine goes outside of our state. So for the smaller wineries. So for us having to pivot, that really meant, you know, looking at how can we, you know, ship wine out, because we do have a small window when we can do that. As we all know, it gets very warm in our area and in the rest of the US during the summertime. So, you know, we don't ship during the summer. So when that stay-at-home order came in, we knew we had a very small window for that. What we were allowed to do is curbside pickup. And all that means is our guests can call us to order wine, they can order online, and they can drive up, we usually see them coming, so we can wave and greet them, and we run the wines out to their trunk or the back of their car. And so we do have a way of getting wine to our guests safely. But you know, the other thing, I think the biggest challenge that our community should be aware of for your local wineries here is think about what people really want when they come to wineries. You want the experience, right? And our wineries and counties outside of us, they're open. And so guess what that means for us? It means that we lose that business. And so, you know, our hands are tied where we can do curbside pickup, but the weather's nice, and, you know, there are wineries that are open outside our area. So we've seen a drastic decline in folks coming out to pick up wine. And then the other part of it too is for summer, we're not shipping wine. And so for us wineries, without reopening, we really have to pivot again. So what does that look like is what we're really trying to figure out right now.
Oh, that's great. And I think, would you mind sharing the story that you did when you were talking about your mask, that, you know, when you do have wine club members or somebody coming for curbside pickup, that you kind of want to spend some time and chat with them, just that, you know, you've got this relationship that you've built up with your customers, and that I think we all have this longing actually to have some face-to-face at a safe social distance, but would you mind maybe sharing that story? I probably already let the cat out of the bag, but.
Of course, I think for the, so for the wineries, we have the Washington Wine Institute and the Washington Wine Commission. They were on top of it day one. I mean, they were mask up, team wears it, and then even with reopening, they've come up with protocols for us. And so this is like insanely regular. So for wineries, I mean, we're ready. And so what we do is mask up when we're working or when our folks are coming to see us. And if you come out to get wine from us, we're not going to let you go. I mean, you don't just come pick up wine. We're so anxious to talk to you and connect with you that even in your car, as you're trying to back away, we're like, wait, one more thing. We've had this relationship we built with you. You can't go. And so if you happen to see like little wine barrels going to the back of your car to stop you from backing up, then hey, we just want to really show you love and continue that relationship and connection that we built with you.
That's great. Thanks for sharing that.
Absolutely.
That story. Barbara, how about the mall? I know, you know, we all read stuff in the paper, and sure, it's been not easy at all, but could you share a little bit about what's going on with Columbia Center Mall, and you know, what are some future stages, even with reopening, that you're looking forward to?
Yeah, so the mall, obviously, like everyone else, closed on March 18th, and we have been focusing on what we can do to get ready for when we reopen. One of the things that I think you know, the customers understand is that this curbside is a new, as Shae said, curbside is a new, the new buzzword that a lot of people are doing. We've had a couple of stores and a couple of our restaurants be doing curbside since day one, and doing it very successfully. Dick's Sporting Goods, I've seen more kayaks go out that building than any place else in the last 3 months. So people are getting out and obviously enjoying the great weather we have here, and they're finding ways to still be able to make their purchases. But like Shae said, you know, with the rest of us, with other areas around us being opening, those dollars are going to other counties, meaning, you know, the retail sales dollars are going to other cities and counties. And so that is, you know, having a profound impact on our area. And so, you know, it's something that we're hopefully, you know, going to see a change in the near future. But it is a situation where, you know, looking at, you know, all the retailers in the mall, you know, we've got over 125 of them, and they vary from, you know, the local guy to, you know, the national corporation. And some of them are, you know, I hate to say this, but I think that we will be the last mall in the Simon portfolio to reopen. And so, you know, a lot of the other retailers are doing their best to stay alive during this time.
Thanks. And I think that's a great point, and something we should highlight is everybody, is frustrated with staying at home, and we all want to get out there. But I think we all know about buy local campaigns, and maybe this can just be a reminder to there are services out there. You can do curbside, you can do the things that we're talking about, and we just encourage everybody to stay local, shop local, stay home, wear your mask, social distance. I think that's a great point to bring up to support those local businesses that need that help. Steve, how about you at CG Public House? And I do have to say, since I live off of Badger, when I do go to the office, I go right by CG Public House, and I love asparagus. So I was planning to hit your asparagus festival time that you guys had, but when I drove by there, the line was like down the road, and I was I don't know if I can wait that long for the asparagus. So you want to talk a little bit about CG Public House and how you guys are doing and some of the things you're doing?
Well, yeah, thank you, Karl. So I'm sorry you never got in. I can tell you the first couple of CG markets that we did on Saturdays, we had some police contacts that just weren't the most pleasant. That we had some challenges. So when we had to close, we did not have a large takeout business, and so we've been working on that and developing it. We've had to add ordering, and to Tracy's point, we were using third-party delivery companies, and now we're delivering our own. I mean, we have a whole bunch of caterers and vans with nothing to do, so we'll deliver for free. The markets have been a great idea. I give Shirley all the credit for that. And it's really helped keep the volume up. I would say this though to all your listeners, for us and for many other restaurants and catering companies, we're running on less than 20% of our normal volume. We're not paying the overhead, so we're burning cash, and so the sooner we get open, the better for us, because we're paying the bills now, but I hate to anticipate that day when we can't. So yeah, let's get the Tri-Cities back open, and the sooner the better. It can't be sooner. And I will admit to having gone out of the county to go have a sit-down dinner. So
well, I think since you own a restaurant yourself, that's we can understand that's but Steve, thanks for making that point, because that's really the point we want to get out in our conversation today, is that each of you bring prime examples with your business that add so much to the fabric of the Tri-Cities and the greater community. And how much longer can you and your peers all stay closed, essentially not be reopened? And I'll just tell you, from TRIDEC's point of view, where we're focused on economic growth and the economic well-being and vitality of our general community, both counties, placemaking is such a critical feature, and each of you with your businesses maintain and really augment such a big part of what it's like to live here. And so when we're recruiting companies, when we're recruiting people to help bring in talent for specific companies, being able to have the retail experiences, being able to have the food experiences, food delivery, and of course wineries, craft beer, the whole gamut. It's such an incredibly important part of our community, because we're really selling the whole community. And so for each of us, when we go outside, and we need to remember to take that mask with us, we need to remember to maintain social distances, because these are things that we can all do in our personal lives to help you guys, to help really keep up the strength of our community on what we're working on. So that's, Steve, thanks for that point. That is the point that we want to get across today. We've talked a little bit about masks and learned a little bit about each of your businesses. But let's talk about reopening. We're all anxious to hear from the health department and the conversations they've had with Department of Health about maybe how can we get to even some type of modified phase 1, or someday look towards to phase 2. But within each of your businesses, as you look forward to some form of reopening, can you talk a little bit about what you're doing to keep your customers safe, and then employees too. Just, you know, maybe some protocols that you've implemented from the health district for that. And maybe this time we will start with Shae.
So for us, it's probably very similar to you know, what Steve and Tracy will say from a service standpoint. So ours, you know, coming into us being in hospitality, we still want to be able to provide a stellar experience in a safe way for us, for our staff, and for our guests, for the community. So we will be enforcing mask wearing. Obviously, everybody will with the mandate that starts today. But we will operate initially by appointment. For us, fortunately, not only do we have our tasting room, but we have a beautiful outdoor space that we've just never really used before. We have a beautiful flat area in front of our home because we live out here on property that's shaded most of the day. And we've just never used it. And so we were permitted by the Liquor Control Board to open that up for alcohol service. And so what we'll do is appointments. So all that means is you give us a call or shoot us a note saying that you're coming. We'll make sure that there's a space for you where there is at minimum 6 feet distance. We're looking at even doing more. So it just kind of gives you a little more privacy. We'll have a COVID supervisor, which is the person that will greet you and just kind of give you the rules. Like, well, first off, we'll give you wine. There's no need to tell you about the rules unless you have wine in hand. So we will greet you with wine. And then we just let you know when you're moving about our space, you'll need to have your mask on. And when you get to your personal area that we're going to seat you in, then you can take your mask off and enjoy your wine experience. You'll notice flights will be a really big thing with Frichette and with the wine community. Instead of traditionally going up to the bar and having tastings. And so the wineries have put together some amazing flight options. I'm telling you, just the wineries out here, we actually meet almost every week. And we've been preparing to open for a really, really long time. And some of the wineries have even been like, you know, Goose Ridge, Solar Spirits, a distillery. They're making some amazing sanitizers that we can just spray. And so our place literally will smell like a distillery because we're spraying light switches and door handles. You'll probably see staff that actually has, as discreetly as possible, a little sanitizer bottle on them so that anytime they're walking by a bathroom door or the front door that they're consistently spraying. You'll probably see a lot more shaded outdoor spaces at the different areas. Like I was saying, we're all getting permitted to use those spaces, a lot of bottle service, glass service, those sort of things. And I think that for some of the wineries, they'll still continue to do some drive up pickup services. I think with the community, there'll be a lot of folks who are very anxious to get out and experience us. And then there'll be some folks that are still a little bit more hesitant, just to kind of sit back and see what happens. And so we want to still make sure we can provide them with wine. But we have an insanely collaborative wine community in our area. I'm so grateful to have the opportunity to work, as a winery in this area. We've been doing some drive up pickups, some collaboration, things like that, a big thing for National Rosé Day. And so all of us are very prepared to provide that experience that, Barbara, I know you travel a lot when you go to other countries and you sit in the middle of vineyards with, having wine. We've never really provided that before. Well, guess what? Tri-Cities, we will be providing it. So when we open up, before word gets out to everybody else that we're doing these amazing new experiences for you, we want our locals to come and experience first. So those are some of the things. I think mask up, sanitizing, appointments, and flights are probably some of the biggest new changes that our guests have noticed at the wineries.
That's great. Thank you. That's amazing. Just, to hear the preparation and how queued up you guys are ready to reopen when we get the word from Department of Health and the Health District. Barbara, how about the mall? I would imagine, the counties that have gone to phase 2, we've read articles and seen news about, what they have to do to provide social distancing and that. So, and even the relationship with your tenants, how's it going there? Just looking forward to those reopening phases, and maybe it's some of them are, you know, phase 2, phase 3, but how's it going, and what are you guys able to at least work on until we get the word?
Well, luckily, we've also had the advantage of a lot of these stores have already opened in other markets, so they really know what they have to do to get ready to go to a phase 1.5 or phase 2. Certainly at the mall, the safety and security of our customers and our employees are still our #1 priority. We have implemented a new set of safety protocols, sanitizing protocols. As Shae said, you know, we'll have people around the mall in high touch point areas, sanitizing. All of our people will be masked. All the employees will be masked. We, as employers, we're doing temperature checks on our employees when they come to work, and we have a checklist of things that we ask them each day to make sure that they are in fact healthy. And we're hoping that shoppers also will come to the mall, but they will also be healthy, and that they don't come to, you know, obviously come out if they're running a temperature or something. We'll provide masks. We're going to have a masking area for customers who just forget to bring their masks or show up and don't realize that there is a masking policy or mandate. So we will provide that, and we will initially start out with not probably our full hours. So we'll have shorter hours, and then once you know, we get everybody up and running again, and I think most of the stores are pretty close to being there. There's probably a couple that are just still trying to get all their protocols into place, but I think that once we get there, you know, we'll probably open with and we will let the retailer decide based on, you know, whether they think they're ready or not. But we've got spacing, we've got social distancing stickers. Our people will be walking through the mall, reminding people to social distance. In our food court, we've obviously taken away all the tables and chairs so that they are 6 feet apart. And so we'll be doing our part in masking up and making sure that everybody is safe when they come to the mall.
That's great. And I can't imagine all the work that you guys have gone into, but I think it's great to hear that, you know, even having your folks reminding people of social distancing, and then, you know, mask wearing that we're all talking about, that it is a mandate as of today, but, you know, how do we enforce that? How do we make sure that everybody's comfortable and safe with that? Steve, how about CG Public House? I'm just thinking the one time that I was in there before we closed, but you guys have a lot of booths and tables and stuff. Are you able to, you know, spread those out a little bit, or I don't even know, do you have some space in back that you could do some outdoor seating or anything? Or
Well, you know, interesting that you asked that question, because we've already rearranged the dining room to meet the requirements when we finally get to reopen. Next door to our dining room, we have event space. We've actually moved the other chairs into the event space, and we'll use that for restaurant space for the time being. And we have some outside seating as well. Yeah, as far as safety, you know, the restaurants, we've been in the business of controlling budgets and stuff for a lot of years. And so, you know, to a large extent, we'll just be doing what we've always done. We'll probably wipe down some surfaces more often than we normally would. You know, the CDC gave us a troubling guideline. We use bleach in our restaurant, and we mix it, you know, between 100 and 200 parts per million. CDC wants you to mix bleach as a, you know, for contact disinfection at 10 times that amount. And
wow.
The problem with that is that concentration of bleach cannot touch food because it will contaminate it. So we're finding ways to deal with that. It's kind of frustrating. We think it's kind of overkill. I mean, we handle everything else with, you know, 100 to 200 parts per million. You know, at the restaurant, we take our employees' temperatures every day. Masks are required. Gloves are required when it's appropriate. We don't have people in gloves all the time. Gloves can be just as dirty as hands can be, depending on, you know, the practices that people are using. If you go into a big box store and you see somebody that's in gloves, you know that he's been in gloves all day, and probably the same gloves. And so, you know, it might be just as dirty as whatever. We have a little bit of outside seating at the restaurant. We have a new location in Columbia Park, Bite at the Landing, and most of the seating there is outdoors. And actually, we've got tables and chairs and some umbrellas out in the grassy area with the permission of the Liquor Control Board. So you can pick up takeout and then just go sit there and eat it. As long as we don't offer table service, they have been okay with that. So
well, that's kind of cool. So people can do that now?
They can, yes.
Okay.
I'm waiting for more umbrellas to come in. We lost a couple in a recent windstorm.
I can only imagine. So it's kind of like, I mean, I'm thinking of, you know, going to the concert at the Gorge or something and kind of having a picnic lunch out in the grassy area. And
Oh, sure.
It sounds like a nice experience.
Yeah, it's Bite at the Landing's been a bright spot for us, you know.
That's great. Well, I'm glad that we're able to talk about that and kind of help get the word out. I like say, I don't get out that often, but when I do, I drive by. And so it's nice to let people know about that. And I think you bring up a good point, you know, and we've talked to the health district before. If you're in, you know, the restaurant business or potentially other businesses that deal with the health district, like you're some of the few businesses before COVID that actually had a relationship with the health district because you're being inspected by them. And,
Sure.
And it's an interesting fact, right? That the health district's there to do food safety inspections and obviously things around, you know, septic tank permitting and things like that from a public health aspect. But they really kick in a pandemic like we're seeing now. And so it's, you know, it's one of the things we're trying to get the word out about. Who are they? What do they do? And obviously, I think we're all seeing a lot more messaging from them. But that's a great point. And that in the restaurant business, you've been dealing with them for a long time. You know how to do those and keep people and food safe. So let's go to.
Can I make a comment about that?
Yeah.
You know, unfortunately, Dr. Pearson, you know, health department officials are taking a bunch of heat, undeservedly. And I would want to point out that, you know, they didn't set the guidelines. They didn't introduce the virus. You know, they're just trying to keep the public safe. And there are some of those frontliners that we probably ought to be more thankful for than.
Steve, I couldn't say it better myself. Thank you. That's a perfect point to make. And I think that, you know, as we talk to them, I hope that they get a chance to go home at night because they're literally putting in so many hours and they've really transitioned from the job that they normally do into this pandemic. And a lot of people are doing things that, you know, that they've never done before because we haven't had a pandemic in 100 years. But,
Right.
You know, they are friends and neighbors. They are trying to do their job to keep all of us safe. And so I think you're exactly right that they are taking some unwanted criticism. But, you know, these are the things just like we would all prefer not to wear a mask, but this is the thing that we can do to help all of our businesses open back up and that we can keep each other safe. And so that's a really well said and a good point. Tracy, how about Chicken Shack and TC Food Dudes? What are you guys doing looking forward for your restaurant, you know, looking forward to reopening and putting in these guidelines? How are those things coming and what are you going to be doing when we get to a future phase?
We've already been practicing the phase 2 guidelines for restaurants with the temperature checks and rearranged all of our furniture. We have an indoor space and an outdoor space, so we've made arrangements for both of those. We, like Shae, we want to delight our customers, and so we try to make a point of making it really clear what they need to do when they come in and how to proceed. Because I've noticed out in the retail environment that if they're uncertain or nobody's guiding them on how things go in the particular establishment, that their comfort level, meaning the client, decreases significantly. So we have signage in place and stickers on the floor, and people are told to be charged and move people through the process, and make sure that they social distance from each other. So we're kind of just took the reins of the entire experience and are guiding them through it. And it seems to be working really well. We've had a slight uptick since the shut down, and I think it's primarily because we make it comfortable and easy for our clients. And food dudes, you know, they most people are doing no contact. So, you know, we do the shaka instead of the handshake, and leave the food on the doorstep, and we wear masks as well.
Oh, that's great. You know, maybe we can have a next round of questions. Just talk a little bit about, you know, from a business aspect, all of you being, you know, business owners and leaders. Any access to the federal programs, or even, you know, at TRIDEC, we facilitated this small business grant program for Department of Commerce that we're still working through. And then, you know, we're looking forward to putting a program together with Benton County, for instance, where some of their CARES dollars would be available for small businesses. And, you know, a lot of those commerce grants, the focus was to try to get to retailers and restaurants. But, you know, whatever each of you are comfortable with, do you have any stories to tell us, or, you know, were you able to access some of the payroll protection program, or, you know, the other loan or grant programs? And if you're not comfortable talking about it, that's cool too. But, you know, just a real general question. Maybe this time we'll start with Shae.
So we didn't get the opportunity to apply or to be rewarded any grant programs, but we did do the payroll protection. So we just got, you know, I wish that we would have had more, because we had like some other things that we could have been doing. Although we weren't seeing customers come in, we did get to use some of our team to help with some of the vineyard work, and to help with some of the other things around the winery that weren't necessarily pouring for customers. And so so we saw it as a neat opportunity to still be able to keep, and we have a very small team, but keep folks on our team engaged and giving them some work. I wish we had the opportunity to have qualified for more, but from the sounds of it, it was just at one point I heard we were running out, and then we weren't. And so it was great to at least have something that was able to help our small business out.
Let's go to Barbara next. Do you have any, you know, relationship, or even some of your tenants, you know, were they able to get some help through any of these programs, or, you know, kind of bridge financing or something?
Yeah, I know of several of our tenants that were able, local tenants who were able to, were successful in securing PPP loans or PPP money. The changing dynamic of that in terms of how long they could use it, and now I believe it's being extended. That's been a little bit troubling, because of course, you know, if you don't have a brick and mortar store open, you can't really bring people back unless you want to, you know, unless you have a high internet presence. I will say that I sit on the board for the Kennewick Public Facilities District, and we were able to secure PPP funds for that. And they, like Shae said, just did a fantastic job of retooling what they were doing. And we took on with the giving out meals every Wednesday, Wednesdays and Thursdays, and our staff, you know, came together and filled boxes and boxes and boxes of food every week, and then was out there to give those boxes out to needy families, and so that was really. But again, the money only went so far, and now certainly, you know, as a phase, probably more like a phase 4 position for the convention center and the Toyota Center. It's going to be challenging to try and see how they can continue to do that.
Yeah, oh, definitely. Tracy, how about Chicken Shack? You guys were able to access any financing, or even any other businesses that you interacted, and maybe any of the TC Food Dudes restaurants or something? Any stories you want to share with us about access to that financing?
We were able to access the PPP loan for both the chicken shacks, and we were lucky enough to have a relationship with Community First Bank in town, and they were really spot on getting. We were probably in the first round, meaning the first of the first round. We were able to just seamlessly get our loan, and that enabled me to keep all of my employees at both stores from the very beginning. If I would have had to wait, like some of the other restaurants I've heard, they got them weeks or months after I did. So I probably wouldn't have been able to keep them all. So I really hats off to Community First.
That's great. Thank you. Steve, how about you? Are you guys able to access any of that financing, or any other businesses that you deal with that want to share a story?
We were able to get payroll protection plan money, and like Community First, it was Washington Trust that just did a yeoman's job for us. I'm gonna say it was kind of a mixed blessing. We got, as soon as your loan's funded, you have to start spending it. And we got ours April 20th. And at the time we were pretty hopeful about, being able to open soon. And the president signed the updated program while we were in week 7. We did pivot to be able to take more advantage of the money over a long term, and so I would say it certainly has helped us. But there was a few weeks that we had a whole bunch of people on the payroll that weren't doing much. Yeah. And we got our kitchen painted, and we got some other things that badly needed to be done. But for the most part, they came off unemployment. We had them fully employed, and then unfortunately, many are back on unemployment. It kind of whipsaws them a little bit. I hate to see that. I hate to see that happen. But so, like I said, I'll give it a C. Not that it didn't help, but there's some things that could have been better about it.
No, I appreciate your comments, because I think everybody that we've talked to has similar feelings about it. Obviously, the intent was to help businesses maintain payrolls and do those things, but I think everybody that we've talked to has had similar stories and similar situations. We're down to almost 15 minutes left, and I just want to encourage anybody that's tuning in to use the question and answer feature here on Zoom, or if you're on Facebook Live, to put it in the comment section. We'll get to some of those questions for our panelists, but we're joined by really some of the leading restaurateurs, wineries, retailers in the Tri-Cities and general Benton and Franklin area. And the point we're trying to make on Coffee with Karl today is that these businesses are very innovative, and they're doing the best they can, but we really need to reopen. And so each of us can make a choice to wear a mask, social distance, not go to parties over the 4th of July weekend, but maintain distance and be safe, because I think that's what a lot of us are hearing. We've had many calls and meetings with the health district, and then we've even had one with some ag associations, agriculture, obviously critical to our community, and talking about the practices that during the workday, agriculture companies, whether it's out in the farm or field or in a food processing plant, are actually implementing and keeping their employees safe. But when they go home, they forget about it. They don't wear the mask. They go to parties. They do those things. So we're just trying to encourage everybody. We need to do these things to help your businesses open, and it's something that we can each do. So we've got a few questions coming in, and Tracy, you want to talk about TC Food Dudes? And of course, we're all looking forward, as we said, to those reopening points. But is TC Food Dudes going to continue to be a service even as we come out of COVID? I mean, have you talked about that with your restaurant partners, and do you want to keep it going?
I think it's a necessary thing. Like I said, most of the restaurants that I'm dealing with now do not have an online presence, and this gives them one. It access to customers that maybe previously wouldn't have access to. But more importantly, I think that customers are getting used to this type of transaction, and that although they will go back to visiting on site and experience level type transactions, I think there's still going to be a higher level of people continuing to order online and through their mobile apps. And so I think that and I also think that I feel very strongly about the fact that TC Food Dudes keeps all the money local versus that other third parties take it out of our community. So the more that I can service our local restaurants, the more money that can stay here. So I think it's important and necessary to continue.
That's a great point. I just, like I said, just checking it out this morning, I was really impressed by it. And I think that it, you know, some of that we talked about talent and placemaking and amenities based community, which, you know, each of your businesses really do a great job representing. But when it comes to younger talent, especially, you know, engineers, you know, some of the people that are harder to recruit and keep here, you know, some of the big companies that we work with a lot, they have a hard time retaining them. They come here for a couple of years and then they end up going to the West Side, as many young people do. And some of the feedback that they get is like, oh, there's nothing to do here. But in reality, each of you represent a little bit of a part of, you know, really the fabric of our community that I think we could all do a better job getting young people, especially out to all your establishments once we reopen. And even TC Food Dudes, I'm sorry, I keep on confusing your name. But TC Food Dudes is great because it is local and it is kind of that, you know, I'll say younger vibe that I think is appealing to younger people. And it kind of has that urban feel of something that you might see in a Seattle or Portland thing. So I think it's really cool. And it's exciting that you guys will keep it going, you know, after we get to reopen. Maybe now we can just do a question round robin about looking forward into the second half of the year and not knowing when we'd get to like a stage 4, you know, where we can't have larger gatherings. I know maybe each of you have bigger events, whether it's catering or, you know, Christmas oriented or Shae, of course, you know, wine centered events where there's a lot of people there. But as you look forward to those, do you have any thoughts or ideas? And I guess, you know, there's probably a lot of unknowns, but have you thought about, we'll start with you, Shae, again, you know, fall release, barrel tasting, crush, like, have you planned that far ahead, or are you kind of waiting to see more about what the guidelines will be or what phase we're at opening up?
You know, it's that's a great question. And it's also it's hard to plan those things. I think right now, we've, you know, for wine, for myself and my wine colleagues, we just had so much hope because we saw a lot of people doing the right things. I know that there were a lot of folks that weren't wearing masks, but we saw a lot of people doing the right thing. And so we were very hopeful that we would reopen, and we've had to cancel events, just like, I mean, Steve, I know you guys are in the same boat too, where you just have to, you know, for events, you just happen to cancel or reschedule those. So for us, we don't know. I mean, personally with Frichette, we are rescheduling our Motown Jazz concert that's scheduled in July. We've been doing that since we've been open. It's one of our best events of the year. And that's something that we, you know, we're just kind of hoping that we can host it in the fall, since we have a large space with the opportunity to physically distance guests and still do it in a really safe way at a smaller capacity. But we just don't know. I think when we get into things like, you know, having to make deposits and, you know, having to think about securing things to have events outdoors, it can get pretty expensive. And to put that expense right now into those sort of things is a very difficult thing to do. The other thing that we have to think about, although there are all those fun events in the fall, it's one of the most expensive times of the year for us. You know, we're putting in, it's harvest, we're paying for barrels, we're paying for fruits, we're paying for processing equipment. And so that's the other, you know, that's the other thing that we have to think about. If the money's not made in the first half of the year, you know, we still have to look at how do we invest in this particular vintage that will be released in 2 years and what the impacts of that would be. So Karl, sorry, that was a long-winded answer for that very
No,
simple
that
question.
that was great, because I think, you know, the points that you're bringing up are ones that we want to share with everybody, is that, you know, it's fun to go to your winery and have these great events, but there's so many things that go on literally in the back room and your planning that I think in this situation, especially where we're trying to make the point about changing our behaviors and being safe so that we can help you reopen. Those are all things that people need to know about, that helps build the case for wearing your mask, social distance, and you know, being safe at our homes as well, so that we can stop COVID and reopen. I think that's great. We're down to about 9 minutes, and I just had a good question from the question and answer box, but can we just quickly go around and, I mean, we've been talking about the challenges. We know this is a very serious subject, but in this COVID situation with your business and the challenges that you've been through, are there any positive stories that you want to just share with our audience today, or something that's come out of it? Maybe not even in your business, but one of the businesses that you know, or that you come up with. Maybe we'll start this time with Steve.
I guess the most positive thing that I can name is that, you know, times have been tough, but the community has been very supportive of us, and, you know, not only spending some money with us when they can. We've sold thousands of dollars in gift cards, which is something that we really, really appreciate. But the community has really showed us some love, and you know, I know that when we finally get open, it'll be a relief to all of us, and hopefully we can all celebrate. But, you know, while I say something positive, something has come up that is of concern, and we've seen this on Facebook, and there is a plan to have a community celebration party, whatever, down in Columbia Park on the 5th, and they are requesting specifically that you do not wear a mask. And, you know, those are disturbing kinds of things that don't help. So
That's a great point, and I'll just say that I hope that people don't participate in that, because the reality of it is, if they do the things that we've all seen out there on social media, it's going to keep each of you from opening. And that's our point today. Is, you know, that there is a connection. You know, politics aside and everything else, we want to get you guys open, and the way to do that is wear a mask. And, you know, it's about doubling down, and it's about doing things that maybe are unpleasant, but it's something that we can all do together, and our community can come together to do it. So that's a great point, Steve. Barbara, you got any good stories or any things that you know, maybe as we wrap up here in a little bit, you can share with us things that you've seen as a positive that have come out of this COVID?
Well, I feel like Steve, that the community has really rallied and come together for a lot of people who are, you know, suffering right now, and just, you know, seeing, like, trying to go to CG on a Saturday and being parked out in the middle of Clearwater. It's great. I mean, it is absolutely great. Going to the Toyota Center and see, you know, your heart just breaks to see 1,000 cars, but seeing all those people who are there, who are helping out to, you know, get food out. You know, I have friends who have, who have kids who have restaurants, and they've, you know, it's all hands on deck to try and continue to, you know, keep these businesses afloat during this really trying time. And so I know my mall walkers are missing the mall because they come to the doors every day and try and see if they can get in. So hopefully, you know, we can get everybody masked up and ready to go and get these businesses back going.
That's great. Thank you. Tracy, how about you? Do you have a positive or something that you've seen that is good that's coming out of the COVID situation?
I've seen a couple of things. The support of the clients, like they said, has been amazing. Without them, we wouldn't have our doors open, but more so, my team at both stores has really rallied. We have not taken this, we've taken this opportunity to find process improvements. And so you would think that this would be a time where you would maybe sit back and lament the loss of business, but instead they've taken the challenge to how can we make it better for when we do open up. And so that really is really encouraging. And then on the Tri-City Food Juice side, something that has come out of this is our restaurant community in the past has kind of been a little bit disjointed and not very collaborative. But those that are joining Tri-City Food Juice, we're collaborating, we're helping each other come to the realization that perhaps we're not so much competitors. We couldn't take 30% from each other like those outside companies are taking from us every day. So maybe if we band together, we can all improve and increase business. So that's been encouraging.
That's really encouraging. It's great to see that coming together, to your point about those local businesses and how can we work together and not be competitors. That's a great point.
Yeah.
Shae, how about you? Is there maybe a highlight or something that you want to talk about that you guys have experienced here with the shutdown?
Well, our team has had the opportunity to really think outside the box on some of the experiences that we provide. The one that I love the most is our mystery wine challenge, where you buy a bottle of wine and the label is covered. And we get on a Zoom call just like this, and we take you through the steps of how you blind taste wine. And then at the end, everybody on the call, you pull the label off to reveal the wine. We just did one last night, and we do this with small teams as well. And so that's been a lot of fun. And I don't know if that type of experience would have come out of, you know, not having this particular time. And I think the other thing that's been a benefit really is having our team get to go work in our vineyard, because when guests do come back, now they'll be able to tell the story of how we grow these wine grapes and what their experience was. And then the last thing I would share is just the funny conversations that I've had the opportunity to have with our club members and guests who've been coming through in face masks, and the things I get to know about them by putting wine in their trunk. I mean, like, if you want to get to know someone, look in the trunk of their car. That's all I'm saying.
That's good. That might be a metaphor for many things that we could incorporate. Well, we are down to like 2 minutes, and I just want to thank everybody for your time today. I think this is a great conversation, and you know, I've not had a chance to meet everybody face to face, so I'm looking forward to getting out there when we reopen and spend some time and money in each of your businesses. And let's just go quickly around if everybody has some closing comments, and then we'll all remember everybody to mask up. We're using the hashtag #MaskUpTC, trying to encourage that safe behavior so we can get open. But let's start the goodbyes with Barbara.
Well, thank you again, Karl, for hosting this today. I think it's really important that the Tri-Cities comes together as a community and works together to do whatever we can to get these businesses back open. And I know we're going to be asked to make, you know, some sacrifices, but that's what we have to do in order to get us back open. And I really hope that everybody will look at these as not just, you know, a sacrifice, but think of it at what you're doing to help some small business or local business, you know, save themselves and get open. So I'll say mask up. Totally.
That's perfect. Thank you. Let's go to Shae next.
I would say that I love being here in the Tri-Cities. I love our community. Thank you to the folks in the community that are already trying their best to do the right thing. I've seen some folks that have their kids 5 and over wearing masks as well. And I would just say, let's just try it, because at least at the end of the day, we can say we tried as a community. And that's the community I want to be a part of. A community that says, you know what, at least we tried. So for anyone who doesn't have a mask, there are tons of people making masks. It's very easy to get a free mask. For businesses that you're going into, at least for the winery side, we'll have them if you don't have them, but let's just try it. And I still believe I'm a glass half full kind of person, except for when it comes to wine, I'm a full glass kind of person. But I honestly believe that we will reopen soon. I believe that we still can have a fantastic time in the Tri-Cities, being very safe. At least I'm going to have a great summer, and we're going to open up.
That's perfect. Thank you. That's a great comments. Tracy, how about you? Do you have some closing remarks for everybody out there?
Well, first, I want to thank you for having this. I think that it is important that we get the word out that masking is one of the steps that are needed for us to open back up. And that's what we need, is to open back up if we're going to have any kind of longevity. Other than that, I would encourage people to support their local businesses, not only monetarily, but by abiding by the mandate and doing what's necessary so that we get granted permission.
That's great. Thank you very much. Steve, how about you? Do you have some closing comments for us?
I do. You know, I understand not wearing a mask as a political statement. The problem with masks, I think they're misunderstood, is they are most effective keeping you from infecting other people. And they're less effective in protecting you from other people. So think about other people and wear your damn mask, Tri-Cities.
That's very well said. And I think that we've shown today that for each of you and your businesses and your business peers and associates, this is critical. I mean, wearing a mask can help each of you open a little bit sooner. So that's a great point. I am late in closing the show out, and then I got to give some plugs though. So we're one of the partners in the TC Open and Safe Coalition, which is a group of businesses and business organizations that have a website to help businesses make a plan. We've heard of each of your plans on reopening. If you go to tcopenandsafe.com, you can see guidelines that'll take you to the health district website to quickly and easily understand what you need to reopen your business. And today, starting right now, 10 to 2, at the Tri-Cities Business Center where our offices are, 7130 West Grand Ridge, you can pick up basically a starter kit for a business to reopen: 100 masks, some hand sanitizer, window cling for your door or window, is if you sign our pledge for TC Open and Safe. So I did want to give that plug. Also, if you're a nonprofit and you need to get some masks, you can take the pledge too, and be a part of the TC Open and Safe Coalition. So I should have said that at the start of the show. I wanted to get it in before we end today. We've run over today, but I want to thank each of you for your time. This has been a great discussion, and we'll have this up on our Facebook page and on our TRIDEC.org website. So if anybody missed it, they can always catch it as a recording later. So thanks everybody for your time today. Have a great weekend, and let's wear a mask and get the Tri-Cities open back up. Thank you.
All right.
Mask up.
There you go.